Call to order this special meeting of the Beverly City Council, Wednesday, May 26, 2021. Ms. Dixon, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilor Ames?
Here.
Copeland?
Here.
Feldman?
Here.
Flaherty?
Here.
Flowers?
Here.
Hausman?
Here.
Rand?
Here.
Christine, I lost you. Rotundo and Guanci here.
Yeah, she's frozen, I think.
He's frozen. What movie is it? She looks like Elsa from Frozen when she got frozen.
Does that mean that we are no longer recording?
If she's frozen.
Mine says recording still in the corner. So, okay.
So we can proceed, I guess, right? Anyway.
I think so. Christine Dixon just joined. Christine, you froze. Turn your microphone back on.
Sorry, I have really bad internet in this room. I'm really glad that this will be over soon.
That's all right. I'm Tony Carson. Let's roll.
So I got Rotundo
is here, and I'm here also.
Yes, thank you.
And we're going to our main standby guy, Councilor Hausman. Would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, Mr. President. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Hausman. Mayor Cahill, would it be proper to hear from you first, or do you want to hear the folks from the YMCA?
I'd love to hear from them. I don't want to make them wait around.
Good idea. Thank you.
Thanks,
Rebecca
Mr. President.
Jackson, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Great. Go Wildcats. Big fans of the Y.
All right, so I have a PowerPoint, so if it's all right with everyone, I'm going to present my screen right now.
And we did get that, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
So if you'll just bear with me. So I think you should be able to see my screen, is that correct?
It's all good. Yep.
Wonderful. So thank you again for the opportunity to present today. My name is Rebecca Jackson. I'm the Director of Community Programs for the Beverly YMCA, and I'm here to present a teen overview of the YMCA as well as an overview of our plans for the McPherson Teen Center. So the Beverly Youth Collaboration is a successful partnership between the City of Beverly and the YMCA of the North Shore. The programs and services offered at the Myles McPherson Youth Center reach and serve a growing population, thereby promoting healthy, positive, and risk-free behavior for Beverly youth. Since the city's youth and teens participate at the Myles McPherson Youth Center at no charge, the Y relies on annual funding from the City of Beverly to help offset the center's operating expenses. We're excited that the number of youth and teens served at the youth center continues to grow annually. Yet with this success comes increased Y investment and resources. Rising costs for supplies, such as replacing furniture and kitchen appliances, new game consoles, sports equipment, art supplies for the growing interests, dim in comparison to the rising costs of staffing. As a result, we respectfully request to maintain level funding from the city for its fiscal year 2022 at $68,442.
Rebecca, can I stop you just for a minute?
Yes.
Lisa forgot to remind me to read the script because she's not here, so it all falls on me. Not you, Christine. I have to read this before every council meeting. Then I'll go right back to you, okay?
Will do.
Script for remotely conducted city council meetings. Wednesday, May 26, 2021. Better not say anything mean about me while I'm not here. That's what Lisa wrote on top of my paper. Confirming member access. As a preliminary matter, this is Paul Guanci, President of the Beverly City Council. Before beginning the meeting, I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded by the City of Beverly and live streamed by BevCam on both Channel 99 and via BevCam's YouTube channel. I'm confirming that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Introduction to remote meeting. Good evening. This open meeting of the Beverly City Council is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspended the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as adequate alternative public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting does not have public participation. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and televised live and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants and viewers may be able to see and hear you, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. You have the option to turn off the video if you are participating via computer. All participants should keep their microphones or phones muted unless recognized by me, the chair, to reduce background noise and feedback. Please wait until the person speaking is finished before speaking so we can clearly hear all participants. We do not have anything coming out of committee tonight, so I do not, much to everybody's disappointment, I do not have to read all about Rule 22, but we have no public hearings this evening. So thank you, everybody. And thank you to Council Flowers for the heads up. Ms. Jackson.
Wonderful. All right, so I'm back to the presentation. So when we think about teen offerings at the YMCA, we like to think about them in thematic buckets. Oh, excuse me, I just realized I need to hit the present.
You gotta finish the letter.
So hopefully you should be able to see it a little bit better now. So as I was saying, when we think about teen offerings at the YMCA, we really like to think about them in different buckets. And I think this is the best way to really demonstrate all the different things that we do for our youth at the Y. And when we're really doing our job well, and what we really strive to do is to make sure that a number of these different initiatives actually touch on multiple different themes at the same time. Because when that happens, we believe we're offering a more well-rounded product or a more well-rounded approach or support to our teens in Beverly. I'm going to run through some of these different offerings, and then I would really like to highlight the ones that are specifically related to the McPherson Youth Center and free offerings for teens in Beverly. So to start with physical and behavioral health, the YMCA offers teen athletic conditioning classes, holistic health classes, girl power, although as you'll see, some of the asterisks, some of the items within asterisks have been impacted by COVID, and we're really looking forward to resuming some of these programs. Also under the physical and behavioral health bucket, we have the PASS program. And I'd really like to take a moment to talk about this program because throughout the pandemic, the McPherson Youth Center has actually housed the Positive Alternatives to Student Support program, or the PASS program. PASS is a partnership between the YMCA of the North Shore, Children's Friend and Family Services, and the North Shore Education Consortium. And it provides clinical, academic, therapeutic services for students in need of support. So these are the newest numbers since the start of the 2020-2021 school year. 29 Beverly High School students have spent a combined total of 116 days in person at PASS. And referral reasons have ranged from mental health support, substance use, school avoidance, refusal to do work, and violence or threats. In addition to the in-person support on site, we also house a resource navigator at the McPherson Youth Center who offers support for students and families in need of referrals to clinical and basic needs services. If you look at the leadership bucket, we offer a huge amount of teen employment for youth in Beverly, from the front desk to lifeguards to camp. Speaking of camp, we offer a counselor and training program to teens who are looking for increased employment opportunities. The Youth Collaboration Board is the partnership between the Y, as I mentioned, between the Y and the city that supports programming at the McPherson Youth Center. And another item that I'd really like to highlight with all of you today is the Regional Youth Group. So the Regional Youth Group is something that was created this past year, and it's a partnership with neighboring cities and the Regional Youth Prevention Network. And so it's a partnership between 7 different cities, and we have 10 Beverly youth on the Beverly group that also participate as a region. And students meet once a month locally, as well as once a month as a region, to address issues that matter most to youth. And the issue that really has come up as the most of concern for youth, and the thing that makes it hardest to be a teen, has been mental health. And then also anxiety, social media have also been other areas of focus. And so as such, they've identified, like I said, mental health as their area of focus, and they are organizing a teen mental health fair event on June 19th, which I'll talk a little bit more about under the enrichment section. But this is really a teen-led initiative that we're really proud of. And we've also been teaching them a lot around substance use prevention and the importance of prevention work in general. They've had the opportunity to take a look at the Youth Risk Behavior Survey to see what's happening in their local communities, at their local schools, and see where they want to make an impact. In addition to this, there's also Project Y. We just completed the 2nd annual Project Y. We had 200 kids, as well as 35 adults and 17 nonprofit partners. And these adults and these teens participated in a day of volunteerism. And these volunteer projects ranged from Habitat for Humanity to a beach cleanup. When we look at the competitive sports bucket, you'll notice swimming and gymnastics are our 2 main areas of competitive sports. Both of these teams have approximately 125 individuals on each team. Excuse me. And about 40 to 45% of those teams are made up of students who are in middle school or above. Now, moving on to this other bucket in terms of substance use prevention, the YMCA works very closely with the Be Healthy Beverly Coalition, which is focused on substance use prevention, specifically underage drinking, tobacco use, marijuana, as well as opioids. And they've done a number of different campaigns that have been free to the community, free to our teens. Examples include free screenings of the documentaries Angst, which was around anxiety, and Like, which is around social media. In addition to this, we are also offering a free tips training to local restaurants or local establishments as they are starting to hire back up with restrictions for COVID being lifted. We really want to support our community partners in terms of making our establishments safe for our youth. When it comes to enrichments, there are team dances, but we really want to make sure that as things are opening back up again, that we are really focusing on the McPherson Teen Center and the different services that are available there. So to kick off the summer and new McPherson programming that I'll be discussing soon, the YMCA has partnered with the Beverly City Council, the Beverly Parks and Recreation Department, Institute for Savings, the Beverly Bike Committee, and many more to host a kickoff event on June 26th featuring 5-on-5 basketball tournament and arts and crafts area, as well as a bicycle rodeo where youth will be able to do a little a bike course. There will be some free helmets as well too. And this event again will be on June 26th from 10 to 2 p.m. Another upcoming free event, which is specifically geared towards towards high school students, is the Teen Mental Health Fair event, which is on June 19th. This is the student-led event that I was talking about from the Regional Youth Group, and we're really excited. It's going to be on June 19th from 12 to 3, and there's a number of different offerings. So, for example, there will be free mental health first aid kits, free food, for example, from Flip the Bird, and free swag like bucket hats or t-shirts and sunglasses. They'll have the opportunity to do airbrush tattoos, creating their own crystal rings, cotton candy, raffle prizes, and many more options as well. This event will be at Aubert Park and is open to any teen from Gloucester, Beverly, Ipswich, Danvers, Rockport, Essex, and Manchester. So it's really a true partnership between the North Shore and Beverly. And very importantly as well, too, the McPherson programming in terms of drop-in and planned activities. So this spring, the YMCA is reintroducing afternoon and weekend in-person programming at McPherson. The building has been outfitted with increased safety signage and hand sanitizing stations. Additionally, the YMCA purchased outdoor tents and a picnic table that will be brought outside during open hours to provide a sheltered outdoor drop-in space for our youth. And then also beginning in June, McPherson staff have planned a series of scheduled in-person and grab bag activities, ramping up in frequency to once a week by the week of June 21st. Grab bags will include a slime series, cookies in a jar, sponge water balls, DIY kites, mini grow kits, and will be available for pickup during McPherson hours of operation and at the Sterling YMCA. Scheduled activities that have been planned will include making bird feeders, firecracker flags, DIY bubble wands, rock art, bring your own tie-dye, and personalized journals. So we're really excited for this. And in addition to all of these planned activities, I'm excited to share that signups have already begun for the McPherson Basketball League, which will be running July 13th to August 19th on the evenings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Really quickly, some additional enrichments include Teen Camp, STEM Horizons, middle school after school care, which this year actually included a full day program. And then under the access bucket, there's a teen membership. There's also financial assistance. What we like to call it is flexible pricing options for membership, camp, and many other activities, a scholarship program, a STAR camp, which is an inclusion-based camp, and then also specific member benefit times for open basketball, as well as open gymnastics. And I apologize, this was not included in the presentation that was sent to you, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to see what the McPherson Youth Center looks like. We've been making a lot of changes over the last 2 years in terms of making it a really inclusive and inviting space for our youth. So here's the outside of the building that many of you recognize. This is the downstairs. This middle picture is the downstairs space with all the gaming areas. As you'll see, there was a board around Mental Health Month specifically, where we provided different resources. And this last picture is all of the artwork that has been created by our youth that have wanted to have it displayed at McPherson. And much of the walls upstairs are completely covered by some of this really wonderful and special artwork. I really would be remiss if I didn't mention all the wonderful partners that we have, because a lot of this work is done in collaboration with some wonderful partners. Be Healthy Beverly, the Regional Youth Prevention Network, and the Youth Collaboration Board all support the work that we do around teens and positive youth development and the work out of the McPherson Youth Center. Endicott College has been a wonderful partner as well in terms of participating in Be Healthy Beverly, providing volunteer support for a number of different events. The City of Beverly, so the Beverly City Council, Beverly Public Schools, the Beverly Public Library, the Rec Department, as well as the Health Department, the Beverly Bike Committee, and then our partners in past Children's Fund and Family Services, North Shore Education Consortium, and then a number of other partners, for example, Junior Celtics, Special Olympics, Beth Israel Lahey Health, who help us provide a number of different services as well. So on the horizon, because we're really always looking to expand what we're doing for our youth. So the Greater Beverly YMCA and the YMCA of the North Shore are exploring the following options. The first is an e-games partnership with the YMCA of the USA. Currently, there are 60 YMCAs in this pilot program that we will be joining, and it offers e-game options for youth in Beverly. Additionally, there's the Youth in Government program, which is a flagship YMCA program program that offers teens an opportunity to join a group and to be more involved in government. The Junior Celtics Academy. Also, we're exploring the options of teen and tween only hours where they'll really have the run of the facility at the Sterling Y. And then we're also looking at teen and tween focus groups because we really want to hear from them in terms of what they want to participate in and what they want to be involved in and what services they would like to see as well. So how is this supported? This is really supported with the support of the city, but the Beverly Y is also fully committed to serving teens in Beverly. And so we do this through volunteer leadership. So for example, the Youth Collaboration Board's seat on the Greater Beverly YMCA board through executive leadership. We also have 3 full-time staff and a number of different part-time staff that support all of the work that we've discussed today. So I'm going to really quickly stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good stuff.
And I wanted just to thank you so much for your time. We really are committed to continuing to work with the youth in Beverly. We feel like it's a very important thing, especially right now with COVID. They need a lot of support, and we look forward to continuing doing that as well.
And I heard a rumor that Executive Director Judith Cronin is thinking about retiring.
Yes, and she is retiring.
Is that public knowledge yet?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is.
You wanna
We're
take a
sad to
couple
see
of
her
questions?
leave.
Yeah, sadly, sad, right? We were sad when she left the city council. Do you mind taking a few questions or comments?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
I have Councilor Rotundo clicking in first.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say thank you, Rebecca. I've been working with her for the past, month and a half, 2 months, especially with this bike rodeo that came out of a conversation with Councilor Ames and Councilor Rand. And it was one of those things of how to be equitable and moving it around throughout the community. And, talking to the mayor and to the rec department. And, we hit a lot of places of where we could use these resources. Catherine Barrett, was able to get the bike committee a $3,000 grant to buy helmets and some giveaway things, which will help with this activity. And then one thing, it was Officer Meza who had said, the YMCA is looking to do this new kickoff that they haven't been able to, and you should reach out to Judith Cronin, and Judith Cronin put me in touch with Rebecca Jackson. And we've been doing a lot together in the last month or so with the bike rodeo, which is going to start on June 26th. And from that conversation, she had said to me, can you reach out to Amy Epstein up at the Gloucester Y? There's a activity that they're looking for, the teen mental health, which was at Obeah Park, which, these are things in my wheelhouse. I'm like, perfect, we'll go down there. And then, the licenses. So for the Beverly restaurant businesses, she's helped with Beverly Main Street to kind of get this program out. So I got to say is in the last month, they've done a lot with this program, just since the pandemic being on pause. And I got to commend all the different bucket lists they've hit between the mental health, the fun activities, as well as working with the businesses that do directly affect these young adults who have their fake IDs, having 2 colleges in our city, which allows, being a restaurant, seeing that, these IDs tend to pass along, or even with the tips course, being able to recognize when there's over-serving. So I just want to commend all the work she's done in the last 2 months that I've been working with her, and I just met her. So I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Rotundo. Councilor Rand.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I also want to just publicly say, I think the partnership between the city and the YMCA is fantastic. And I have had the pleasure of attending the Be Healthy Beverly meetings way back when. And it's a great group of people that's really thinking about our youngest, adults in our community. I had a question that actually last night I had a civic association meeting in Ward 2, and our meeting definitely had some robust discussion about young people and how our community can do, and including our government, all of us here can do an even better job of making our young people feel welcome. And I know you do that really well at the Y. And I think I just want to be clear, though, that a lot of the work that was listed in those bucket categories are sort of, they're connected to the Y and being a member of a Y and kind of engaging in the services of the YMCA. And the McPherson Youth Center is a little different. That's where the city kind of funds that work. So I'm wondering, just to kind of clarify, how does the Y and the city, how do we work together to make sure that teens know that the McPherson Youth Center isn't a membership? You don't have to be a member of the Y to be there. I know the basketball courts can attract people, but I'm wondering, like, in terms of being kind of an open, inclusive space, how do young people find out that they can go there without a Y membership?
Thank you. I think that's a really wonderful question. And we're always looking for additional suggestions in terms of how to get the word out, because I think, especially as we're reemerging from COVID, there's a lot of work that can be done in terms of republicizing the space and the location. So we do a number of different things. Certainly on the Y website, we mentioned the McPherson Youth Center and that it's open to the public. We work very closely with the middle school as well. We work very closely with the administration at the middle school, as well as the SRO at the middle school in terms of promoting this space. And, you know, we've partnered, for example, with the Beverly Library. They're going to be tabling at one of the events. And so we try to cross promote, certainly on the YMCA social media pages, as well as the Health Really social media pages. We try to promote upcoming events and activities. So it's, I think, a multi-pronged approach, but there's certainly room for continued improvement, and we certainly welcome any recommendations. I think the more we can get youth down there, the better. Because I do think it's a really wonderful resource to have, a safe space that is supervised by staff, where they can also just hang out and do what they want to do as well.
Yeah, I'd be happy to continue that conversation with you, and just as a council to think about that and work with the mayor and our partnership with the McPherson Youth Center and the Y, just to kind of almost like rebrand it in a way, because it feels like our youth are really, right now, they're in my mind as sort of one of the most marginalized groups in the city right now as a result of COVID, but also just sort of some of the things that have been even in the news, right, about kids on bicycles and, kids at parks. And I feel like we're really, as a community, we're really trying to problem solve, but also keep in mind how do we make sure that our young people feel connected and embraced in our community. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Rand. Councilor Copeland.
Yes, thank you, Council President. And Rebecca, it's great to see you again. We spoken on Monday with the mayor and Gerald as well to talk about the great services and things that the Y has to offer. And when we were talking, there was a few things we mentioned. I think it's great to fund the Y. I think it's great as far as the partnership we have. And we all talked about the city potentially doing a little bit more on its end, and the Y shifting some of their programs as well for better utilization so we can have more access for teens. Because as you talked about McPherson, there's also the Stevenson Teen Center, which is up at the Sterling YMCA. And that on its end, I think for the most part during the day, it's also a child care facility. And even in the summer, it's hard for teens to have access to that facility. So we're talking about ways that we can increase access for teens. And also the Y does a great job with having scheduled programs. Some of the other youth centers that you see, they have access where teens can go in and they can kind of come up with their own programs. Or for example, they came in and they built their own computers and they do gaming. Or they do weight training, or they do other things that they can kind of come in and have space to explore and to be teens. And it's a safe space just for teens. And I know during the winter, McPherson is great, but outside of McPherson, you can't utilize. So then at that point, there's really not too many facilities that teens can utilize outside of maybe inside of McPherson, that smaller space. So just looking at having more as we move forward And as Councilor Rand was saying, having a greater opportunity for us to work together to find more opportunities for team to get the word out a little bit more so that they can have more access and explore different facets of themselves so they can have something positive to do, especially during the winter months. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Copeland. Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to kind of answer some of the questions from the council tonight. Interestingly enough, 25 years ago, I was the director at the McPherson Youth Center many years ago. And so the vision of putting this together, just to kind of give a little historical perspective, they were going to close the youth center. And the teens actually rallied to save it. And they actually raised money in the community, was able to fund half of the youth center in that year, and then went on to form the youth collaboration, because the idea of joining with the Y and with the city working together, there is much more of an opportunity to be successful, because those are the agencies, the city and the Y, that works with the youth. And by working with the schools and the nonprofits, it's really, been a lot more successful than we ever thought it would be 25 years later. But now, things change, times change, kids change, families change. So the idea of having the Y and the expertise behind that with Rebecca and her team, the idea of they can kind of build with the tools, not only from the board and the Y, but also working with the city to create a better, not only the McPherson Youth Center, but as a whole, whether it be the teen center on the Sterling campus or as a whole. You talk about youth in government, you talk about a whole variety of programs that the Beverly Youth Collaboration do. And it has been an example for others to follow throughout the Commonwealth, which has been great. That said, could we do better? Absolutely, we could do a lot of things. And I think it's great that the council is involved in asking questions and in being involved, because that just makes a better program, not only for the kids, but for the entire city. So for someone who has been around for this long and been involved with that at the beginning, fresh out of college, I do appreciate everybody's thoughtfulness and willingness, and the mayor and past mayors to support this program, because it's obviously easy to point and say, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And the idea of saying this is what we do and we do it well, but we also can improve is exciting. And Beverly should be lucky to have what we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flowers.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And thank you, Rebecca, for being here and presenting to us. I just was having a thought as I was listening to Councilor Rand and Councilor Copeland and also Councilor Flaherty just now, and thinking about some of what Councilor Rand and Councilor Copeland were talking about, which is how do we, as city leaders, help to increase awareness about what programs are accessible to all young people, and then how do we expand on that? And I'm sure this is something maybe that's already you've thought about, or is a collaboration that is already sort of people are mulling over. But now that our public library is back open, I'm thinking about how they've put significant work into renovating their teen space. And then I think, COVID happened and the library wasn't able to function, but that potentially could be a really good additional partnership that could help young people who are accessing those programs, which of course are free for all Beverly youth, to learn more about, as Councilor Ram was saying, Councilor Copeland, what are the programs at the Y too, where you don't have to be a Y member. And maybe some really interesting collaboration could come out of that too, because I always think how fortunate we are to have the programs that you all are offering. I feel really excited all the time about the fact that we have a public library that has built a specific room for teens and tweens, such a great resource. So I was sitting here thinking about how to bring some of that together to reach some of the goals that fellow counselors were talking about. And if I can be helpful in that, I would be excited to be part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. And we certainly welcome. Oh, sorry. Is it all right if I respond? We certainly welcome any collaboration. We want to work with all of you to continue improving the work that we're doing. And I'm happy you mentioned the library partnership, because we work really closely with Katie, who runs the teen department. And we're really hopeful to have the bookmobile at McPherson, if that's something that we're able to do. We've been having ongoing conversations about that. She will have a table at the youth event, and we're going to be at the McPherson event. We're going to be asking if she's available responsible for the mental health fair event. And in addition to that, we really want to support the library as well. So they're going to be having a citywide scavenger hunt. The YMCA is hopefully going to be one of the locations for that. And so I think it's a really mutually beneficial partnership, and we learn a lot from them. And we want to support the work that they do as well.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful. And I agree. And Katie's wonderful. So I'm glad that you all are partnering together.
She's great.
Thank you both. Councilor Houseman.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Rebecca, for your presentation this evening. I'm particularly excited to learn more about the past program and the collaboration work between the city and the Y that really relates to social emotional support for particularly teens and youth, youth at risk. It's such a easily overlooked but vitally important sort of slice of the community that is so important to provide services for, whether it's at our city parks, the library, the various different ways at the McPherson Youth Center, all the various different ways that we can engage with youth at risk. Healthy Beverly obviously is a component of that as well. So I just want to thank you for your presentation. I've certainly learned quite a bit about some of the activities the Y engages in generally, but in particular on that in that area. So thank you very much. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Houseman. Anybody else? Okay. Rebecca, you want to wrap it up? You have anything else to add?
I just want to thank you again for your time this evening and allowing us to present about the great work that we're doing at the Beverly YMCA around teens. And we really appreciate your support and your passion on this topic as well. And we look forward to working with you more in the future as well.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I think now that we know that Judith Cronin is retiring from the Y, I think it would be a good time for the City Council, maybe Councilor Rotundo and Councilor Feldman, because they do such a great job with resolutions. Maybe they could do a little research and do a resolution for Ms. Cronin.
Sounds wonderful,
Okay.
Mr. President. Thank you. We appreciate the, I thought you didn't want to hear any more resolutions out of us.
No, I think you do a great job. Collaboration.
I'll put my writer hat on.
All right. I'm glad. I thought I was going to get crickets on that one. Thank you. Rebecca, thank you. And we'll be going through the budget and taking a look at that appropriation over the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda item, I did read the script. We'll go right to Mayor Cahill as he presents his FY 2022 budget. Mayor Cahill.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's so good to see everybody. I know we're going to spend some quality time together in the next couple of weeks. And I do have some prepared remarks that I'll for the most part, read and then get you a copy later. I want to start with a few thank yous. So first, good evening to all of you, my colleagues in city government, Council President Guanci, and all members of our city council. It is, as always, an honor to be with you tonight to present our administration's proposed fiscal year 2022 city operating budget for your examination and your consideration. If I may, I'd like to share a few thoughts with you tonight. Again, first, some thanks. And the first thanks I want to make is to Mr. Brian Ailes, our city's finance director, for all the outstanding work that he does throughout the year, for his efforts in partnership with all of our municipal departments, our Beverly School Department, Chief of Staff Stephanie Bellotti, me, you city councilors, and your budget analyst, Mr. Perry, in preparing this budget proposal. But most of all, I want to thank Mr. Ailes for the kindness that he extends to everyone he works with, his decency always, and his deep commitment to service of this city that we all love. We are lucky and we are blessed to call him our colleague. As with many things these past 15 months, meeting our collective fiscal, operational, and capital needs as a city has probably felt like more than a full-time job. And given that you as city councilors have of necessity given far more of yourselves than you could have reasonably imagined, all while working full-time jobs and trying to keep businesses afloat, I want to take a minute to thank each of you city councilors for your service to our community. It has been and it continues to be a challenge and a responsibility that you consistently rise to meet and the people of Beverly benefit greatly. Thank you. Likewise, I want to thank the many good people who work for this city, people who have stood tall throughout this COVID-19 pandemic, from our public safety to public services employees, to our school department employees, to our community services departments, all our public-facing employees in all our departments, our top-notch team of department heads and support staff, all the way across city government. The professionalism and commitment on display these past many months has been inspiring. So many good, caring people work day in and out to make Beverly the wonderful community it truly is. Thank you to you all. So turning to our budget now, last year, fiscal year 2021, was obviously challenging in many ways. At the start of the pandemic, we took the precaution of freezing all departmental spending possible, and we preserved funds in anticipation of potential significant revenue shortfalls that may be caused by the pandemic. What followed was a state budget process that ultimately took 6 months longer than normal. In fact, we all waited until December of last year, while state officials understandably struggled to accurately forecast revenues for fiscal year 2021. Thankfully, state aid was eventually funded at reasonable levels for fiscal year 2021, allowing us together to manage our budget and deliver critical city services at hoped-for levels. Today, as we deliver you this proposed fiscal year 2022 city budget, we expect that the governor and state legislature will approve their budget at a level that will include a roughly $600,000 increase in state aid to our city for schools and municipal services. State reserves are expected to be partly replenished as state revenues show strength despite the pandemic, and many of the state's revenue estimates are being exceeded. This is very encouraging, and it shows resiliency in our regional economy. In Beverly, we expect to end fiscal year 2021 with undesignated fund balance, also known eventually as free cash, at roughly 6% of our operating budget, within our financial policy's recommended range of 3 to 8%. We also expect to end fiscal year 2021 with our stabilization fund at just under 11% of our operating budget, also within our financial policy's recommended range of 10 to 15%. This is good news, and it reflects sound management of the financial resources with which our constituents entrust us. Thank you all for your ongoing partnership in this effort. In the proposed fiscal year 2022 operating budget that you've received this evening, we note the following. We project the restoration of revenue streams that were reduced for fiscal year 2021, specifically rooms, meals, and excise taxes and building permits, collectively adding $1.25 million in additional budget capacity when compared to fiscal year 2021. We recommend and request a fiscal year 2022 budget that represents a 3.6% increase over fiscal year 2021. In dollars, roughly $5 million in additional spending. Some notable funding requests in this proposed budget include increasing our road and sidewalk funding by $600,000 to a level of $2 million in the coming year. That, as you know, would be paired up with the $1.1 million we typically get in state Chapter 90 funds. Continuing the commitment we made last year together to fund our racial equity initiatives at $150,000. Annualizing the cost of our sustainability director. And you'll recall that when we hired Irina Keefe to be our sustainability director, she started in mid-October. So the first year of that funding will run through mid-October. And our anonymous donor committed to funding 80% of the position in year one, 60% of the position in year two, and 40% of the position in year three. So we'll be taking on a bit more of the load. We'll be funding 20% of the position for the first few months of the fiscal year, and then 40% from there to the end of the year. Also, adding 2 positions in the police department. 1 new patrol officer, bringing the ranks to 51 patrol officers, and 1 new lieutenant, bringing the ranks of lieutenants to 6. Adding 1 position in the IT department for a help desk position. Increasing the fire department overtime line and annualizing the costs of the 4 firefighters that we hired 3 years ago with the help of the federal SAFER grant. That grant is due to expire in December of this year. Establishing our 911 public safety dispatch as a separate unit. This is funded in the proposed budget at $315,000 for a dispatch supervisor and dispatch positions. This budget will then be complemented by the fire dispatch budget once that function transitions into the new consolidated dispatch. This new consolidated dispatch, staffed fully by civilian dispatch personnel, will also then free up 4.5 full-time equivalency police patrol positions so that those police officers can return to active patrol out in the community. Also, a transfer to the sanitation enterprise account increased by $710,000 for a new trash and recycling contract. This tracks the significantly higher costs that are being faced by municipals throughout the region for both collection and disposal of trash and recyclable materials. A climate initiatives line totaling $150,000 in the public property budget. This past year, we paid for several local grant matches for installation of EV charging stations, as well as for the first annual lease payment for our new EV school bus. I mentioned the match of the EV charging stations. You'll remember what a great deal we got on the 4 level 2 stations at the high school and the one at Ayers-Ryle side. And if you also remember, each station can charge 2 cars at a time. So that's 8 charging stations at the high school and 2 at Ayers. The total cost was about $145,000, but with a combination of National Grid grant funding and grant funding from the state, we only had to spend just under, I think, $10,000 of that $145,000. But we did that a couple times with matches locally, and so we're looking to those types of expenditures out of this line. Year to year, we'll see different opportunities. An increase to the library budget this year of $78,000 to keep our library spending in compliance with the state's mandated minimum appropriation requirements. Restoration of the Park of the Year line to $50,000 this year. And here's the biggest increase. Not surprising, we know it each year, it's critically important to all of us. A $2.09 million increase to the Beverly Public Schools appropriation, bringing our schools' total funding level to $65,376,470 in the proposed budget. As a breakdown, that roughly $2.01 million increase breaks out as $1.625 million in new city funds for the schools and $465,000 in new state Chapter 70 funds for the schools. An increase, and here's the other big number, an increase of $1.239 million to our debt service budget due entirely to the third and final middle school borrowing, which was paired up with the one borrowing for our new police station. So those two pieces of funding together. This is particularly good news, as thanks to historically low interest rates, we have refinanced existing debt twice in the last year and a half. And then on this middle school police station borrowing, we secured, as you know, because we just did this together a few months ago, a 1.8% interest rate. As a result of all of this good work, our debt ratio is now under 7.6% of our total operating budget. A very healthy place for us to be. And here's this is really the last point for now. Due to several critically important water and sewer infrastructure improvement projects recently completed and more necessary this coming year, and these are separate enterprise funds, as we know, our water and sewer costs will require a rate increase of just under 2.3%. Please note that this requested rate increase that you'll have before you comes after a cumulative 5-year increase of just under 1/3% over the past 5 years. So to my colleagues on the City Council, Mr. Ailes, our department heads and I, we all look forward to your public discussion and consideration of this proposed budget and our part in helping you work through that, which, as we all know, will start next Tuesday evening. So I thank you for your kindly attention this evening and for your ongoing partnership in this, our local government. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Cahill. Does Mr. Ailes have anything to add, or our budget analyst, Mr. Perry, before I entertain a motion to set a public hearing on the budget?
I do not.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Mr. Perry, never at a loss for words.
Thank you, Mr. President. No, I'll be forwarding a memo shortly in the next day or so to you all, and then with the permission of Chairman Flaherty, I'll present orally to you folks Tuesday night.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. So I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing at a special meeting of the Beverly City Council on Monday, June 14th at 7:15 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Dixon, roll call, please.
Ames? The thumbs up. Okay. Copeland?
Yes.
All right. Feldman?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Flowers?
Yes.
Hausman?
Yes.
Rand?
Yes.
Rotundo?
Yes.
And Guanci.
Yes, thank you. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 1st. It'll be a meeting of the Committee on Finance and Property and the Committee of a Whole. And we'll start diving into the FY 2022 budget. Does anybody have anything to add before I entertain a motion to adjourn this evening? Council Copeland. I got nervous. I thought it was going to be Houseman.
Yes, thank you, Council President. So I just had a quick question as far as, because it's my first time going through this, so I want to know what to expect. So I got the book and going through it for the city expenditures and total revenue and so forth. And then over the last few years, and thank you for getting that over to us. Going through it, it's all numbers, which is great. But what you just talked about here, you kind of laid out the narrative of what we're looking to accomplish and where the money's going and so forth. Are we going to get information like that as well? So we can balance that against the numbers that we're looking at?
Yeah, we'll see, Council Copeland, we'll speak with every department head. They'll be in to present their budget. And Mr. Ailes will be there, as well as Mayor Kale and our budget analyst, Jerry Perry. So I would expect that, yourself, Councilor Ames, who else is kind of new? Councilor Feldman and Councilor Rotundo. Ask whatever questions you need to. I know that Councilor Rotundo, Ames, and Feldman have been through one budget cycle, but this is your first. So, ask away and make sure. Don't be shy.
All right, sounds good. I definitely will. Thank you.
All right. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes, Mr. President, I just want to echo what you said. I mean, majority of this budget, I remember being a young councilor coming through this the first time and trying to find out what we could change, what could we add. Majority of this budget is set. With salaries, it's about 65% of salaries. I believe, if they can, maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong. There's not a lot of wiggle room because some of the money is in debt that we've kind of already voted on, like the police station, the schools we're still paying for. So a lot of this is, unfortunately, there's not a lot of wiggle room. When you boil it down, there's not a lot of money you can actually move around and change as much as we would love to. That being said, doesn't mean we can't. I think it's very important. This is our time to kind of ask the department heads to come forward with information. If we don't have the right information, ask them for the information that we're looking for, because we won't take the vote the night they come in. So when they come and present to us, we can ask some questions and get some more information if you want to, and then move forward on that. And it's a little challenging. I think it'll be better when we do get into the council chambers, a little better for free-flowing information and be able to talk in the council chambers. That will help the process, especially last year, having gone through it. But it's an interesting process that I would expect to go through. Even though they do a good job with the budget, there's still a lot of more information that we could ask for. But then it's important for them to come forward with that as well. So I think it's a great process, and one that we can obviously even though it's going through finance and property, we meet as a committee of the whole. So members of the council are more than willing and are able to kind of ask questions at the same time. It's not just a finance and property, even though we do vote. We kind of go with it all at the same time to make it easier for everybody. And hopefully that helps.
You're muted, Councilor Guanci.
I'm sorry, Councilor Houseman.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I just want to go on record as saying I have no questions and no comments to make.
Thank you. You really are the best. So tomorrow night we have charter review. It's at 7 p.m. You can get the link on the city website or through the city clerk's office. And the charter review committee under the leadership of Councilor Tim Flaherty is really moving along well. He is being assisted by committee members as well as Jerry Perry, our budget analyst. And then our next real full city council meeting will be Monday the 7th in council chambers. So, I mean, I look forward to seeing everybody in person, reminding Councilor Rotundo that we're not wearing short pants in council chambers. And I look forward to seeing everybody on Tuesday. Thanks. Happy Memorial Day weekend. See if everybody can get out to one of the events put on by our Veterans Department this weekend also. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Ames,
Yes.
Copeland,
Yes.
Flaherty. Oh, sorry, Feldman,
Yes.
Flaherty.
Yes.
Thank you. Flowers,
Yes.
Hausman,
Yes.
Rand,
Yes.
Rotundo,
Yes.
and Guanci.
Yes, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, Mayor Cahill. Good night, everybody.
Thanks all.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
you.
Good night.
Good night.